What's going on, y'all? Chuck Nunface here. Just want to do a quick little video about this guy right here. This is certainly nothing new by design. This is the ZT Knives 0350 LTS. So it is the Tiger Stripe. What makes this knife unique is it is a new iteration of a classic ZT model. The 0350, of course, Canon design. I believe Mick Strider was involved in this as well, or at least its older brother, the 0300 series. But this is a classic ZT design that has been around for a long time. And it has got a new iteration with, as you can see right there, Magnacut steel. So Magnacut, 2023 has certainly been the year where Magnacut kind of hit its stride. It was the year of Magnacut, so to speak, where it kind of started becoming the ubiquitous steel. We're now into 2024, and we're seeing a lot of models out there with Magnacut. Now, I have mixed feelings on the steel itself. This isn't going to be that type of video where I just really talk about that, but the steel, I think it's going to be somewhat like M390 was 5, 6, 7 years ago, whatever have you, where it was the new hot steel, and it was in every single knife that was produced, and people would pay extra money for the M390 versions as opposed to the X35VN versions. And a lot of the M390 was not heat treated properly. In fact, most of it wasn't heat treated properly. I mean, really, M390 needs to be 62, 63 HRC in order to truly, take advantage of the steel. Maybe 61, 62, something like that. But it needs to be harder, and most were doing 58, 59, 58 to 60, something like that. So you weren't really taking advantage of the steel itself. So a lot of people were just kind of gobbling it up, myself included. I was guilty of that as well. Just buying everything that was M390. Now, Magnacut, I'm not going to be the same way about that, but it does seem like it's here to stay, and it's going to be the darling of the knife industry, for better or for worse, for quite some time. So what kind of makes me excited about it is just the fact that, they're keeping this knife alive. So the fact that ZT has decided to issue this knife with Magnacut steel means that they still believe in the pattern. And that means there's still, in my opinion, hope for the brand, because I really feel that this brand has just kind of gotten away from their roots, and they've fallen off with what made ZT bold and what made ZT awesome, and a lot of their fan base really like these kind of built like a tank type of models. But in any case, I digress. We'll go over a few specs right here. I don't have the weight on me, but it's certainly not a light one. It's about a 3¼ inch blade. So it's not a huge blade if you measure from right there. Cutting edge is going to be about actually 3¼ so it's probably going to be a little less than 3¼ but when you factor in the cutting edge, since it goes below that part right there, it's going to be about 3¼ This is, of course, is the Tiger Stripe, which I think you should always go with Tiger Stripes if you have the option to go Tiger Stripes. If the option exists for Tiger Stripes, you should always opt for Tiger Stripes. It's just my opinion. It does have stainless steel liners. That green G10, this one was purchased from USA Made Blade. Whitty over there is awesome dude, always stocking the best USA products. So go ahead and check out usamadeblade.com. We'll go ahead and link that in the description. We'll go do some size comparisons real quick. Let's see, something that everybody knows, Spyderco PM2, so it's gonna be a little bit shorter than the PM2. A little bit longer than the Pair 3. Let's see if I can just get that all in frame there. So there you go right there. The venerable budget Superstar, which is the Ontario Rat model number 1. This one in D2. Probably one of the best budget knives out there, or it certainly was for a very long time. A lot of different options out there now, of course. There is the Buck 110. Also a classic, another Spyderco. There is the Endura. This one is, of course, a Wharncliffe and K390. So the Endura, so it's going to be smaller than the Endura. What do we got here? We got a Hinderer XM18. So it's going to be smaller than the Hinderer XM18. And let's see, last but not least, its big brother, the 0300. This is the 0300 or the 0303. And that is the design that this is derived from. So it's just about 20% smaller, 10% smaller, something like that. I forget what the specs are, but it's just a little bit smaller all around than that knife right there. So This is an assisted opening knife. However, I have de-assisted this. Now, both of these knives have been de-assisted. As you can see, you can just kind of drop the blade shut, which you can't normally do with an assisted knife because it does have a torsion bar. Under the scale, you take the scale off and there's a torsion bar in there, and then you just kind of pop that torsion bar out, clean up some of the excess grease to keep it from rattling that they put in there, and then you can go ahead and make it a de-assisted knife. However, the 300 series, for whatever reason, ZT opted not to put a detent hole, so it has a detent ball in the lock scale. So it's got a detent ball in there, but it has no detent hole in the blade, so there's nowhere for that detent ball to rest when the knife comes to a close. So you can't really reliably get it to deploy unless you drill or have somebody drill. My friend Satu Dave did this one. You can go ahead and have that drilled, and you can get it so it won't flop open, and it will also reliably deploy when you push the flipper tab. These, however, the 0300s, at least the newer ones, they do have a detent hole drilled in the blade already. So you can go ahead and you can de-assist the knife, and it's pretty reliable. Now, it's not the best flipper in the world. You know, it's not as good as, you know, the XM18. You know, I don't have any other flippers on the table right now, but it's not as good as you know, it's not going to be the best flipper in the world, but it will certainly flip reliably. But you have to be deliberate. You can't light switch it. You really have to be deliberate with your deployment on the flipper tab. Of course, you can also thumb flick it out as well. But yeah, these are de-assistable quite easy, so that's a good thing. Now, I do believe some of the early generations of these that probably had either a 154 CM, probably. I think they made these 154 CM way back in the day. But yeah, then S30V, some of them did not, but they started doing the detent hole fairly early on in these. So if you do want to have it de-assisted, you certainly can. And yeah, we'll just do a little bit more comparison with its big brother. You can kind of see right there. It's just overall just about 10-20% smaller, whatever that percentage is. I forget exactly, than the big one. Now, of course, this is a liner lock. It's not a frame lock. So yeah, stainless steel liners on this. I think I've kind of covered all of that. A lot of people don't like recurves on their knives simply for sharpening purposes. I really don't find it to be a problem. I use a KME system, and I do have a jewel stick for sharpening recurves, and I believe I did use the jewel stick a little bit while getting in on that, but you almost don't have to. You can just use regular stones. Just keep the stones moving. Don't go like this, directly in long strokes like that. Just kind of keep the stones moving on your knife, and you really shouldn't have a problem. You're not gonna make that or change that. What's the term I'm looking for? You're not going to change the recurve at all. It's really not that challenging. So a lot of people, myself included, didn't want to do recurve knives for that reason, just for sharpening purposes, but it's really not an issue. Yeah, from the factory, this knife came pretty sharp, not amazingly sharp. I'm picky. I tend to resharpen knives pretty quickly after getting them, with the very few exceptions. I think Spyderco usually has some pretty good edges. Medford has good edges from the factory most of the time. But this edge was okay. I did see some comments on Instagram saying this thing came screaming sharp and everything else. I don't know. Maybe my version wasn't super sharp, or it was just a different level of expectation for me and the person that posted that. But yeah, it wasn't super sharp. But I went ahead and sharpened it, and it wasn't that big of an issue. Yeah, gonna keep it short on this one. But I just kind of wanted to touch on this a little bit because it does make me happy that ZT is keeping this model going. It gives me hope. I haven't really been too enthusiastic about anything they put out lately. I do think the 0300, or the 0308, I should say, is a pretty cool knife. It's not as cool, obviously, as the old ones, but, it is what it is. Things change. I always think, I think there's room for ZT to do both. I think there's room for them to do the new knives that people are buying and everything else. Obviously, they're making money off it, or they wouldn't still be making them. But I also think there's room to kind of keep some of the, the built like a tank and the Go Bold ZT era knives going, at least in spirit. You know, not necessarily complete reissues of, you know, things like the 0300 and 0200 and things like that, those models, but to kind of at least keep designs within that vein for the people that want them, because there is definitely a base that ZT has that they want knives that are big and bold, and kind of, you know, people that were buying their knives for 20 plus years really want to keep buying. But in any case, I digress. I don't work for KAI USA, so I don't make those decisions, but I do use the hashtag make ZT go bold again. Maybe you should use it too when you post your ZT knives. Just saying. I'll go ahead and put that in the description. Go bold ZT on Instagram. Give it a follow. Speaking of follows, to all my subscribers, thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. It certainly does mean a lot to me. You know, we're approaching 1,400 subscribers now, so that means a lot. I really do appreciate that, y'all. You know, keep it up and keep on commenting. I'll keep on putting out the videos that you like to see. Let me know what you like to see in the comments. I'm certainly open to suggestions. And if you want to give me a follow on Instagram, I'd certainly appreciate that, at Chuck_Nunface, and stay tuned for the next one.